And we are live.
We're live just like that as I try to fix my mic once again at the wrong time. That's perfect, Patrick. Nice job as I try to do that. We'll go live over here on Instagram as I try to get my mic right here on a Monday morning, everybody. Hey, welcome to the Patrick Carr Show. We've only got a limited amount of time, Anthony, here because we're busy. It's good to be busy over here at Blue Collar Media Group, but that means we can't be rocking and rolling on the show here for a full hour today like we always love to do, huh? All right. So we got to pack those show for you. So I'm going to try to spend about 5 to 6 minutes on each topic, everybody, and get right to the point of what you want to know going into your week. Today is no different. And I've been avoiding this topic because, in my opinion, Anthony, oh, by the way, everybody, Anthony, as always, behind the camera over here, making things happen as producer.
Making it all nice and clean for y'all.
Thank you very much. There we go. All right. So I want to jump into the first topic I've got, Anthony, here. And the reason we haven't covered this, even though it's been in the news left and right, is because, frankly, it's just boring. All right. And it's Amendment 3, and it's coming up for vote. It's going to be on the ballot, and I think it's going to pass. For those of you who are not familiar with what Amendment 3 is or why it's so freaking boring, it's the homestead exemption tax bill. Everybody's heard of it. But nobody wants to actually talk about it because it puts you to sleep. So I'm going to break it down for you in the next 5 minutes, everything that you need to know to try to make yourself sound smart at the dinner table. All right. So here's the first thing. The name of the actual bill that DeSantis put forward is the Save Our Homes from Excessive Property Taxes. I mean, who could not want that right there, right? Yeah. Now, like I said, it needs 60% to pass. Here's how it actually works. Your bill is your home's value minus your exemptions times your tax rate. So right now, homeowners get a $50,000 exemption on their primary residence. So basically what happened is a while back, if you have a homestead, meaning that is your main home in Florida, you get an exemption on some of your taxes for that home. You don't get it on your second, third, and fourth home that you're renting out for your Airbnb. You get one homestead home right there that you get some exemptions for. Amendment 3 raises the exemption from $50,000 to $150,000 in 2027, and then $250,000 in 2028. But it only applies to city, county, and district taxes. Here's a big kicker, everybody. It does not touch school taxes. School taxes are about 40% of your bill, and they stay exactly the same. Now, I want to turn our attention to an example because I really did some research on this one. I want to use Cape Coral as my example because they actually have some problems down there with filling open positions in their police office. So take a $300,000 home in Cape Coral. Today, you would pay about $4,200 a year. About $1,650 goes back to the schools. $2,500 goes to everything else. In 2027, your bill drops to $3,180. And in 2028, it drops to $2,160 because you get more and more of that bill exempt 2027 into 2028. So that's a savings of a little over $2,000, which is about $170 a month for somebody living in that home. Now, the other side of the ledger. Cape Coral says that amendment cost them $28.6 million. The city has already published its list of ways that it's going to replace that money. Raise the fire assessment from 81% to 100%. Add a 3% tax on electric, water, and gas bills. Create new assessments for parks, streetlights, medians, and parking. Raise recreation fees or raise the tax rate just in general. I want you all to understand the key number here, okay? In Cape Coral, just like a lot of other cities in Florida, Cape Coral has 138,000 properties. Only about 61,000 are homesteaded, about 44%. Spread $28.6 million across every property in the city, and you come up with $206 for each property. So the homeowner saves $2,040 about and pays $206. But the other 56% of properties, that's the rentals, the condos, the snowbird homes, the small businesses, save nothing, and they're still going to pay $206 extra. So the amendment also says leftover property tax can only fund what it calls core services. That's public safety, education, infrastructure, natural resources. Parks and recreation are not on that list. Cape Coral, like many other cities in Florida, has a budget for that stuff, and that's pretty much going to be eliminated if they don't come up with the money other places. So I want people to understand as well. Let me go down to the police. It's also affecting police. Cape Coral calls for service jumped 70 to nearly 76% in 1 year. Let me repeat that. Cape Coral's calls for service jumped nearly 76% in 1 year. Officer utilization is at 87%, meaning that if an officer has an 8-hour shift, 87% of that 8 hours is spent actually responding to calls. That's a long time to be on edge right there. And the city of Cape Coral has 1.3 officers for every 1,000 residents. The regional average is 1.8. So the chief of police down there is asking for 34 new positions. The problem is, how the heck are you going to pay for it? When you have less money that is coming into local governments, they have to find a way to make up for it somewhere. Now, I want to jump ahead here because I think it's very important that we understand one thing, that DeSantis is not backing this right now. He's not out on the campaign trail pushing for it, because I think what DeSantis realizes is that while this sounded really good on paper, and it sounded like, man, you know what, this is something that every homeowner is going to want to get behind. When you start to peel back a little bit of this, you start to see that money just doesn't come out of nowhere. You can't just get rid of money and say, well, just go fend for yourself. And this is exactly what Republicans don't like it when Democrats do. Like when you have a liberal Democrat that's in office and they want all of these services, and you go, where the heck are you going to pay for those things? It goes the other way as well, everybody. If you're going to take money away from services, then you got to look at it and go, where is this money going to come from? And so DeSantis is saying that local governments have become too bloated and therefore they need to go ahead and reduce their size. But the question becomes, where do you reduce that size at? And one of the things I want to be very careful of here, everybody, is that when you begin to reduce size at places like police departments, that's where I begin to have a problem. Now, I know they've already carved out the exemption for schools, which is a wonderful thing. But I believe here we have a very sneaky way of getting a bill passed into law. And that is as simply as this, Anthony, the name. There's actually a lawsuit against us right now. It's a bipartisan. There's a Democrat and a Republican that have joined this in a lawsuit to change the name of this bill, because the Save Our Homes from Excessive Property Taxes sounds like everybody and their brother is going to vote yes on that. If you don't know what that means, or you don't know what it could do to other fees that you might pay, of course you're voting yes on that. Save my home from excessive property taxes? Sign me right up for that. But you're not thinking about where is that money going to come from if it's not coming from those property taxes that you're saving. And so I think this bill, and I'll be very frank, is going to pass. It needs 60% to pass, and I think it's going to. And here's the reason why. It's people, you don't need to be a rocket scientist. Who do you think votes in these elections? Do you think it's mostly people who live in apartments or homes?
Probably homes.
Yeah, right. That's who votes in local elections. People who are older, people who have homes, people that have homesteads. That's who votes in these elections. And so if you have a homestead and you're telling me I can save about $2,000, let's just say on a $300,000 home. Okay, yeah, sign me up. And I've got to pay $206 back. Like I get extra $200 in fees, but I save $2,000. Yeah, I'm all about that, because like any voter, if I own a home, I want to look out for me and my family. I'm not worried about those fees being assessed to other people if they don't save money. I'm worried about me and my family. And so I want people to understand that this probably will pass, and DeSantis from many people will be looked at as a homeowner or as a hero by homeowners. But I think there's a different side to this bill that nobody is considering right now. And I think that local governments are right to be very weary of what this is going to mean to them.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of these bills, it's don't judge like the book by its cover. A lot of them has these flashy titles and stuff, and then when you actually dig deep into a lot of these bills, a lot of it doesn't make any sense, or a lot of them just really doesn't.
It's love like when they came Freedom from Tyranny Act. Yep. It's like, well, that means it probably has a lot to do with you having tyranny. Like anything you're getting freedom or liberty from, just don't believe it. All right. When they name these bills, they name them in a way that is meant to be marketing. And that is what they are doing. They're giving you a brand, a message, and you're attached. Oh, okay, well, excessive property taxes. I don't want that. Mm-hmm. But I also look at it this way, and let's just be very honest. If I was to ask you in Florida, do you think more Republicans or Democrats are homeowners?
I don't know. Maybe Republicans, I'll say?
I would say Republicans, right? And when I look at who's going to vote for this, not only do you have more Republicans, in my opinion, that are probably homeowners that are going to vote for this, but Democratic homeowners are going to vote for it too. Because you're a homeowner. You want to save money. It's like, great, I own this home. It's my homestead. I've already paid it off. I don't have a mortgage on it, so I know it's going to be my homestead. And you're telling me that I can save money this year and save more money next year on this by vote? Yeah, of course I am. Now, the people that get affected by this are an individual that's living in an apartment complex, or they go to a local basketball camp for summer, or the Parks and Rec camp that they go to play basketball on Saturday morning for their kids. That now, instead of being $35, is now a $55 to pay for that. These are real fees that are going to be assessed in other places that should be considered when you're putting in a bill and a law like this into Florida. The reason I think DeSantis is distancing himself from this right now is because he understands that there will be people that are going to be hurt by this. And it's not just going to be a win for homeowners. There is a loss on the other side. You got to debit and credit this thing, folks. You don't just get a chance to take a bunch of money away without certain people being affected. Now, with that said, we are in a state that has a massive surplus. If you really want to make this right for local municipalities, what you do is take our surplus and allow that surplus to be used by these individuals to make up the difference. Do I think it'll make up everything? Not even close. But we have to do something to make sure that police, to make sure that essential individuals within a local municipality are not affected. And if you want to look at it this way, the last thing I'll say about this, Florida is growing, everyone. And so I understand DeSantis, and I understand what they're saying up in Tallahassee about, well, you know what? These governments have become bloated, and they have locally. I have no doubt about that, okay? Listen, I'm not going to get into it with time, but I've got some programs that we could get rid of real easy locally around here. But also there are more people that are moving here than ever before. So two things can be true at once. The need for more police officers is there, and government got too bloated at the same time. I don't think we need to conflate those together. And then what we do is we say, well, everything is bloated. We just need to cut everything. No, we can cut over here, but then we can also have the need for more officers over here and not lose public safety or the services that we offer to the public. These are things that we can't just all group into one right now. And this bill, this Amendment 3, has some great positive things, but it's also going to mean some losses at the local level for Floridians.
Yeah, definitely agree.
Next thing I want to focus on here, you got anything else on that one?
No.
All right.
About it.
I want to talk about this guy, Byron Donalds, everybody. If y'all aren't familiar, maybe you've been stuck under a rock, especially if you're a Republican around Florida. There is Florida picks its next governor on August the 18th. But that's just a primary, by the way. But everybody knows this. Whoever wins the primary for the Republican side is going to be the next governor of Florida. Nobody is switching right now. Everybody just wants to keep the DeSantis train rolling. So it doesn't matter who wins, that individual is going to win the governorship for Florida. So it's 5 weeks from today. All right, 5 weeks we have until this election, with the general election as it being November the 3rd. I got to say this. There are 29 candidates that qualified, and 11 of them are Republicans, and there's only about 4 that actually matter. Byron Donalds is the congressman from Naples. Now, he's been endorsed by President Trump, and run, Byron, run. Donalds also has endorsements from Rick Scott and Ted Cruz, and 18 House members, 9 senators, and 15 sheriffs. Okay, the guy's got endorsements, and people want the man to win. I got it. The bigger number for me is that the man has raised $90 million. $90 No other candidate is like even close. No other candidate is even above like 9 million. This guy is just crushing it when it comes to money that he's raised. So we've got a couple other people that actually matter in this race. One is Jay Collins, who I like. He's lieutenant governor. He's a Tampa resident. He's a former Green Beret and 23 years in the military. DeSantis appointed him lieutenant governor in August of 2025. You've also got Paul Renner. He's a former Speaker of the House, and James Fishback, who's an investor. Here's what polling says, folks, because I want you to show you it is not even close right now in the governor's race, according to polling. Emerson College has Donalds at 46%, Collins at 4%. We've got another poll that shows Donalds at 54, Collins at 7. The American Promise has Donalds at 44, Collins at 4%. Now, last week, Collins released a poll, his own poll, and he said that Donalds is at 37.5% and that he's at 20.2%. And so he's calling it a two-man race. Listen, everybody, you could call this thing a two-man race, but the gap between number one and number two is substantial right now with 5 weeks to go. Here's what I want to focus on is that two things, again, can be true at once. Number one, Donalds is a coward. So Donalds is not debating right now. He has basically just said, hey, I'm going to go on the campaign trail. I'm going to go to a bunch of cupcake places, sit down at tables with people, and I'm just going to answer questions. I'm going to have little sound bites here and there, and I'm going to coast my way in this sleepy election into becoming governor. That is what he wants to do, and honestly, that's exactly what I would be advising him if I was on the campaign trail with him. Why, if you've got such a lead right now, would you do anything to screw it up in a debate? Now, is that right? So again, two things true at one time. No, it's not right, everybody. It's a real coward move, in my opinion. And here's why I don't like Donalds. Number one, I haven't met one Republican that is excited about this guy. I go and I talk to business owners. I talk to our clients who are in Florida, and everyone's like, the guy kind of seems like a sellout who's just there for big money. And you know what? He's after corporate interests, and that's who the guy is. That's what this man is about. No one seems to be excited about this guy. And so what I think is it really lends to what I've often thought about Donalds is that he's a real straw man. He's not this strong guy that DeSantis is. DeSantis got out there on the campaign trail and debated when it was time to debate. Donalds is sitting there with his lead going, okay, well, I'm playing not to lose at this point, and I know I've got $90 million in the chest. Just in case somebody decides they want to come after me, I can squash that with more advertising than they can even touch. But what kind of person are you? Because if what we're electing in Florida, which is true, everybody, we're electing the next DeSantis is what we want. Everybody just wants more of the same. Is somebody who cowers and doesn't debate, is somebody who doesn't get out there on the campaign trail and do live events with people, is that the kind of person that is DeSantis? No. That's the exact opposite of what DeSantis would do. This is somebody that's sitting there going, I don't want to debate anybody. Okay, I've got my millions of dollars over here. Just kind of put me in these little places, retirement communities. I'll sit at a table with some people, say, great job. I'll take some fielded questions right there that I already know the answers to. And in the meantime, I'll have people like Rick Scott and Trump and other big names tell you that I'm the right guy for the job. I don't believe it. And one thing I will say about Collins and Fishback and others, Renner, is that they are hungry for a debate and he won't give them one. And that to me just screams that you're weak. And when we look at a governor that we need for this state, we need one that's going to stand up to national interest. And there's no more evidence of that than what we saw with COVID. And do you believe, if you really like this Donalds guy, that he's going to stand up to national pressure? Of course he's not. There's a reason that national politicians in Washington want this guy to be elected, because he's got no backbone. And he's showing it right now on the campaign trail, Anthony. He's showing it by the fact that he won't debate. He's showing it by the fact that he won't go to live events and field real questions from real people. He won't answer questions from those that he is actually running against. That, to me, is not fair to the Floridians who could vote for him. It's not fair to the national landscape, and because the governor of Florida is somebody that has a lot of national pull. And so Donalds right now does not have my respect at all. He's not had my respect for the last couple of months, and he continues to cupcake his way through this entire thing with $90 million in the bank, that he's gotten primarily from big corporate interest. And meanwhile, Floridians don't know a thing about this guy, but they're trusting the fact that some big names have given him an endorsement. So somehow he must be a good dude. Go watch what this guy does when he's in, well, I think it was the House, the Senate. It just seems like he's weak. He seems that way to me. When he gets up there and he tries to be the strong guy, he doesn't seem like that. He just seems like he's trying to be cool, like he's trying to be that guy, but he's not. And it's going to hurt Florida if he gets elected. I'm telling you right now, it will hurt this state. And you will immediately see that the state interests are put behind national interest. And DeSantis has never done that. We are going to lose our place in this country as being a strong place for Republicans and conservative values with Donald's at the helm.
Yeah, it just seems like he's just kind of in it for the money. Like whatever, you can buy him out and do whatever you want to do, and just coast along.
Yeah, for me, this guy right here, he's just a straw man.
And how much was it? Because he raised $90 million, right? Or
$90 million in the bank.
How much did what was it? DeSantis, we did the numbers. Was it like $2 million?
DeSantis is leaving office worth $2 million. That's right. So this guy has got a big war chest right now, and I'm telling you, it's going to be very difficult to close that gap. We would love to have Jay Collins come on the show, talk about what he would do differently. We can get millions of people to view his content right now. I want Jay Collins on the show. Let's get him on here. We're supposed to be a couple weeks back and introduce him to a Central Florida audience that needs to know the difference between Collins and Donald's, because I'm telling you, there's a big difference, and Florida is going to pay the price if Donald's is elected. I'm going to skip ahead here because we only have a limited amount of time, and I want to talk about one of the most disgusting stories that I have heard since we began this podcast, Anthony, and I have to get to this, and I mean, this is absolutely disgusting. There was a pardon that went down last week in Minnesota. The guy's name was Tu Lu Fang. He's a 43-year-old. He came here as a refugee to the United States in 1994 at age 11. He was granted legal status, became a permanent resident, and settled in Minnesota. In 2005, Fang pleaded guilty to first-degree criminal sexual conduct with a young girl. I don't know what I'm allowed to say. I'm just going to say 10 years old. I don't know how to say this. I mean, that's the crime. When police interviewed him, he called the abuse, quote, a minor thing. He blamed his culture. In fact, his exact words to investigators were, quote, a cultural thing to marry and have sex with girls as young as 12. That's what he said. He also tried to pay the victim for her silence. He was sentenced in 2006. Through a plea deal, he largely avoided prison time. Because of the conviction, his immigration judge issued a final order of removal in 2006. His legal status was revoked. He was supposed to be deported that year, but he never left. He refused to accept So Laos, where he's from, has historically refused to accept deportees from the United States. So his removal sat unexecuted for roughly 20 years, and he continued living in Minnesota. That changed in December of 2025 when ICE arrested him during an enforcement push called Operation Metro Surge. He was released under federal supervision on February 19, 2026, while his case was under review. Then, on June 10th, 2026, the Minnesota Board of Pardons voted unanimously to pardon him. The Board of Pardons is 3 people: Governor Tim Walz, Attorney General Keith Ellison, Supreme Court Justice Natalie Hudson. A separate 9-member body called the Clemency Review Commission recommended the pardon first. It is absolutely disgusting right here. Now, I've got to get going. I know we've got a limited amount of time that we have right here. I want to say this. The guy was pardoned in Minnesota by the sickos up there who decided that this guy should have the crimes against a young girl pardoned. Luckily, the Department of Homeland Security stepped in and deported this guy immediately. The quote from them, this pardon, let me see here. I'm sorry, I want to go back. On July the 10th, 2026, Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced that he had revoked Fang's legal status entirely. Going around the pardon, ICE arrested him and deported him to Laos, Rubio said Americans should never have to live in fear that foreign sex predators shielded from deportation by their own elected officials could endanger them or their children. Well, congratulations on common sense actually coming forward. I can't believe that a bunch of idiots up in Minnesota just elected to say that this guy should be pardoned from his crimes. Now, by pardoning him, what they did is they said, well, now he doesn't have to be extradited because the crime is gone. So they were going to allow him to stay right here in the United States, in Minnesota, because he's rehabilitated. No, he's not rehabilitated. I'm here to tell you all, there is no rehabilitation for these sickos. These are the worst people among us, the absolute worst. And when I see a story like this, I want everyone to understand local elections, they matter. And this is the reason why. This individual would have just been allowed to stay on the streets of Minnesota after that crime that he committed 20 years ago. And people, you don't think he's really sorry. You think a guy who blames the victim, tries to pay him off, says it's a cultural thing that he does that. You think that guy right there is somehow sorry for what he did and is never thinking about doing it again? Of course not. That guy's a sicko, everybody. And so they pardoned him. Like, oh, you know what? I guess then it's been 20 years, let's go ahead and pardon him. He was a refugee. The conviction took away his refugee status. So by reversing the conviction will allow him to stay here because that grants his refugee status again. Yeah. That was the plan here, Anthony.
I'm hearing this sort of the first time as you're saying it. Right when you said pardon, my jaw dropped. I was in shock when I heard that. That is ridiculous.
It's insane. We're pardoning people that do crimes like that. Like there is no excuse for that at all. And then what that does is that erases, or what that does is it restores his refugee status in the country. And so they allowed him to stay in the country. Luckily, Marco Rubio stepped up and said, enough of this crap right here. I mean, absolute BS across the board, everybody.
Yeah, thank God, because that's ridiculous. Is there no common sense?
There isn't any common sense. There's zero common sense in our government, it feels like at times. Now, folks, I am really sorry. I only got to 3 stories here today. I know people will be upset about this, but hopefully we got some good information to you here in the last 30 minutes. I have got to run because I got a company to run over here. We got a lot of sales meetings that we've got to get to today. Looking forward to jumping on this next one with a great guy here in Florida. But Anthony, I know we missed a lot that we wanted to get to, but you're going to be working on the podcast with Ana Escabani.
Yep.
We'll be working on that. That's going to be coming out on Friday. Sorry again, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow with a full episode for everyone. We'll see you next time here on the Patrick Carr Show. Take it easy.